Hello everyone, and welcome to this, my second ever video posted to YouTube, and the first one where I'm actually doing anything on that. Today I'm going to be trying my hand at terrarium building. Now, I came up with this idea once when I was drinking from this rather nice bottle here. It used to be a bottle of Old Rosie's cider, which is mediocre cider, but they do come in these rather nice large glass bottles, and it seemed a shame to really just throw that away. It's quite a nice bottle. So I was sitting there thinking, what could I do with it, and I had the idea of making a terrarium out of it. So I've been looking online, and largely inspired by a channel called SerpaDesign. He's really good. I imagine anything I make is just going to look absolutely terrible and amateurish next to what he does. So give it a look if you're looking for something really impressive. So yeah, at some point I'm going to try and get some nice plants growing in this. Probably that way up, if I'm honest. I've been out, followed his channel for a while now. Got myself a few tools for working inside it. So that should be good. Today, however, we're going to start with something a bit simpler. I have this old fish tank here, which, it's a bit small. I've had it a while. It has had fish in it in the past, but there's not really anywhere to attach a proper filter or air pump, and it doesn't really look very good on the side. And it's too small even for the smallest of fish, really. So I never really use it, so I thought I'd try and repurpose it. So as you can see, it's a bit mucky. We're going to have to start off by giving it a good clean with all this old lime scale, because we live in a hard water area here. If the background is falling off, I'll probably just throw that away on it. I'm going to start with a cactus terrarium. I have a small collection of cacti or cactuses around the house, so I thought I'd give it a go making a nice landscaped cactus terrarium. This is what I'm going to be using today. I picked all of these up on Tuesday, which is about 3-4 days ago now. On that, they were all reduced. I picked them up for 50p each. I think the main reason was they were all dying, partly because the store hadn't watered them. So they've been sitting in this tray with some water in the bottom for 3 or 4 days now, and they've all perked up. All of these were all shriveled and dying, and yeah, they've all perked up and they're looking pretty good now. On that, I know they say you shouldn't overwater a cactus, but these were severely underwatered on that. I'm probably not going to use every single one, because there's no way that they will fit in there without looking crowded, but I thought I'd give myself some options, and I'm not going to build just one, I'm going to build more of these. I think they're going to be pretty cool. This is quite cool on a side note. This flower wasn't there last night. I went to bed and it just looked like a normal cactus, and then in the morning this flower had sprouted. Cactuses seem to be very slow growing, and then they'll have a sudden growth spurt out of nowhere. Yeah, they're really quite interesting plants. So we're going to get going. I need to start off by giving this a clean, especially this lid. It's just awful. The inside has got watermarks on it. We've got some spare gravel and some charcoal to use as well for the building, and I've got loads of compost. I have a very large garden. So yeah, start off by giving it a clean, and then we'll see where we go. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes worth of work, and the old tank now is looking a lot better than it did before. I still need to finish drying it down and polishing it up, get rid of any lingering watermarks. There's a couple of marks here and there. I don't know if you can see them just on there. I don't know if it's lingering lime scale from when I sort of abandoned this tank and just let it dry for a while, or if they're just etchings on the glass. If I'm honest, I'm not overly concerned about getting those off. I'll just put them to the back and you're unlikely to even notice it. There's a few bits here and there where as it dries the dirt seems to reappear on there. you scrub it, you think it's gone, and then you dry it and it's back again. So I think about another 5-10 minutes worth of work will get this just about perfect. But I'm quite impressed with how well it came up. I thought that was going to need a lot more work than it's actually needed. So yeah, just a few more minutes worth of cleaning and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so quick update on the cleaning side of it. I've spent about another 10 minutes scrubbing this down here and there. For some reason my time-lapse camera hasn't recorded for that. May have been my fault. I probably didn't press the record button all the way down, but yeah, whatever, it's my first video, so what are you going to do? I'm fairly happy with how the tank has come out. It's looking pretty good now. There's a few marks still near the back that I'm fairly convinced now are just etchings in the glass. They're just scratches I'm never going to get out. I'm not overly concerned. I'll put them to the back and you're unlikely to even notice once I've built the nice landscape inside of it. They may even be nicely hidden by one of the plants. I don't know, I haven't really worked that part out yet. The lid for it, however, is proving somewhat more difficult to clean. It fits in like that. I haven't finished drying it yet, but as you can see along here, it's just not coming clean, isn't this bit? I don't really know if I'm going to bother using the lid or not, if I'll just leave it open. Probably just leave it open, given that it's cactuses. They need a lot of airflow through them anyway. But I think the problem is that the only filter that I could get to work in this small tank was an air-driven one. So you constantly had air bubbling up around here, which was fine. The fish that were in there seemed to enjoy that. They were only in here for a short time before I realised this wasn't a very good tank and I moved them into my big one. But with it bubbling up, you've got little droplets of water constantly pooling on here. They've dried and left some pretty horrible watermarks. I might leave this to soak in a vinegar solution or something like that, see if it'll come clean, but if I'm honest, I probably won't use it anyway, so I'm not overly concerned about that. Moving on to the gravel now. This is the gravel that I had in the tank beforehand. It's just bog standard builder's gravel that I cleaned and washed down. Probably talking about 10 years ago that I got this. I spent a long time sieving it and cleaning all the dust out that you get with builder's gravel, and it's turned it into some pretty nice aquarium gravel. I do want to use this because, as you can see, it's all different shades of brown, maybe 1 or 2 black rocks in there as well. Given that I'm going to be using cactuses, yeah, I want to make a desert scene, and these are nice desert colours. Only problem is I don't think I'm going to have quite enough of this. I want to do a bit of a landscape, raise up the back of it with your smaller plants towards the front, so rather than just having it all completely level and flat. What I'm going to do, because I don't really have time to go out and get any more, past few days I've been struggling to find any more gravel just like this as well. I do have a spare bag of Pets at Home premium aquarium gravel. I bought it, never used it. I have loads of this gravel everywhere. A lot of people rage about Pets at Home, say I should go to other shops. I've never had a problem with them. As you can see, it's all really the wrong colour. It's mostly white rocks. There's a few brown and black in there. If I get another handful, you can see it's really the wrong colour if you're trying to create a desert scene. I think what I'm going to do is just dump all of this in the bottom and then put my desert colours on top. I've got plenty of netting for separating substrates and soils out. I may just put 2 lots of netting in there to keep the 2 of them, but that should give me enough to landscape and shape the bottom of the terrarium as I see fit. So that is the next stage, refilling the tank and getting everything set up ready to put my cactuses in. Okay. Alright, gravel time. So, if anyone at home is watching this using earphones, I suggest you turn the volume down or take them out, because chances are the microphone on my camera is going to clip like crazy as I pull this in. So here we go. Level it off for now and see what sort of depth I'm getting from it. One thing I have noticed looking at other people's cactus terrariums is they want a nice thick substrate to allow the water to drain away. Too much water on a cactus plant, you start to rot the roots out. you get far too much moisture and humidity and the whole plant will just die really quite quickly. That's not actually as bad looking as I thought it would be, really. I don't think I'll need quite all of my desert covered gravel on there. There's quite a bit more brown and black in there than I thought. And that's actually quite a bit deeper than I thought it was going to be as well. So yeah, I think I'll just put a thin layer of the other gravel on top of that, level it off nicely. One thing I do want to do though is keep the two separated. So I think what I'm going to do is work out where I want the plants to go, and the larger ones. Thinking probably towards this back corner. We've still got a couple of marks on the glass here and here. So if we build it up, so we're getting a ramp towards the back of this. So that to the back. The old chaps over at SerpaDesign say you should use a paintbrush or a crafting brush or some sort of tool for doing this. If I'm honest, this gravel seems a bit coarse. I think I've just ended up ruining a perfectly good paintbrush. I think they are the experts. I'm just drawing my inspiration from it. But then again, they're also the professionals and I'm the amateur, so it wouldn't be the same if I weren't doing something a bit amateurish. So that's not too bad. It's thinned it a bit down the front. Should be able to get one of the larger plants down the back. Problem I'm having is I haven't quite decided which plants I want where. One thing I did draw from all the videos I've watched online, not just from SerpaDesign, is that these need to be very organic type growth. If you set out with a plan, it almost certainly won't work. Sometimes you've just got to try things and be prepared to take it apart if it doesn't fit or you don't like the look of it. So I'm going to start some of these larger ones. I'm not going to take them out of their pots just yet. I'm not quite ready for them, but I'll just hold them up and try and imagine where I want them to go. Some of you may have noticed as well, I started off with this piece of driftwood. This was one of the first ever fish tank ornaments that I bought, not for this tank but for another one that I still have running in the house. I quite like it. It's a nice design. Still got some of its wooden colours. I'm not using it in at the tank at the moment. As you can tell by the top here, it's an absolute magnet for algae, and I just have a real problem keeping on top of my algae. I find it really ruins the look of the fish tank very quickly with it. So I'm not using it at the moment. I haven't decided if I want to reintroduce it to my larger fish tank yet. I've got quite a few algae eaters in there that are keeping on top of the algae growth, but I haven't decided. If I can find a way to make it fit with the landscape in here without looking too out of place, then I will. If not, I'm due to be picking up a third fish tank later today anyway. I maybe use it in that. But yeah, I like it. It's got a lead weight embedded in the bottom, so it sits that way up if it's in the water. Obviously if it's in the open air you can put it however you like, put it that way. I haven't quite decided if I want to use that yet, so I'll put that there for now. So back to the cactus, I'm thinking probably either of these towards the rear. See, I have a very similar cactus to this out the front, and it is extremely slow growing, so I'm not overly concerned about where I put this one and it getting overgrown. This one I'm still not sure. I've only had it 4 days and it's already sprouted a few extra buds. Interesting, these spikes aren't sharp at all on it. I get the feeling this one's going to grow very quickly when it has a growth spurt, so I think that one may have to go near the back, so if it does grow it doesn't eclipse everything else that I've got in here. This one was going to go in, but as I said earlier in the video, this flower wasn't there last night, so this one's clearly having a growth spurt, and I get the feeling it's going to grow really quite quickly. So if I do put it in, I need to be careful with the positioning so it doesn't start to steal light or take over the whole thing. Maybe that back corner. angle the flower inwards, that could look quite nice. Let's do that. This purple rainbow cactus I never had any intention of really using. I have another one in red that I wanted to go with it, that's the only reason I picked that one up, but I'm not going to use that. As nice as the colours are on it, I don't think it's going to match the scene that I'm trying to create here, but I'll put it in a new pot eventually and it'll look nice with my other collection. Thinking maybe this. I've got a few succulents as well to go with this. I'm not going to be making all cactuses in here, so that one down near the front. I've got a few of these small ones here. These were all shriveled up and dead when I got them. About half a day sitting in some nice water, soak it up and perked right up. It's amazing how plants can recover sometimes. Yeah, these obviously need a lot more water than the cactuses, so these are likely put down the front in the shallower substrate probably, so that they've got easier access to the water. Don't know if I'll put all of these in because that one has grown even in the past few days. Actually these little ones can all go along the front like that. This one in this front corner, don't know about that one yet. So yeah, I think that's what might happen. Either this one or this one in this back corner, forming back here. This one, I think I'll angle here, try and build up this corner a bit more to raise it off the bottom slightly. And if there's space, maybe this one. I think this one's going to be a bit too big, sat in the middle. With the other two cactuses and succulents around it, it's going to look a bit crowded. I think I'll leave that one out, it's a bit too big. Same with this one. I may be able to fit it in somewhere, maybe down this front corner. It's very similar looking to this one as well. So I put the two of them too close together, people are either going to think it's one plant or it's then just going to look cluttered and crowded. So after all, I say variety is the spice of life. So let's finish shaping this gravel and see how we get. But first, I need a fresh cup of tea. Okay, so nice cup of tea. Certainly brightens the day every time. Cup of Earl Grey always sorts me out if anyone's wondering. So in the meantime, whilst I was making that cup of tea, I pretty much decided what sort of shape I want. I've thinned the gravel out down the front here, like that. That's where I'm going to put these small plants here. Like I said earlier, I want these to have a thinner substrate to them because well, they need more water than the cactuses. I'm going to put here and here. Put these two raised sections here. I've pretty much decided what I'm going to put in. I want these four along the front. So maybe this one in the middle, sort of here, if it doesn't look too crowded. This one is going to go in this back corner, and I think I'm going to use the larger one of these two in here, just there, like that. I think that should look pretty good. Hopefully it won't be too crowded. I'm trying not to create too much of a void in the middle, but of course I need some space between the plants. If it doesn't look too bad, I may put that in there, or I may see if I can angle the two around. Maybe if I plop my driftwood in there like that, with the plants dotted around it, and a few stones and twigs dotted about. I'm trying to create a nice desert scene here, so that actually doesn't look too bad. That might stay like that. First up, as I said earlier, I want to keep my two layers of substrate separated as much as I can, partly because I'm limited in the nice brown gravel that I want to use, and I still want to keep a little bit back to sprinkle over the top once I've got all the sand and the twigs in place, just to give it that real desert feel to it. So I've already cut a piece of mesh to shape, It's slightly oversized for the tank because I need to fit it into the contours that I've put in there. This is just plastic window screen mesh. That's obviously it's fairly cheap. I bought about 2 meters of this off eBay for £2.50. You can get large rolls of it if you're going to be doing this a lot, but as you can see, I've cut out the first piece that I need, and I still have plenty of it left. It's made of plastic, it's harmless to plants, it's not going to dissolve, but crucially, what it does is when you put the soil on top, it stops the soil making its way down into the substrates. Won't stop it forever, eventually you will have to rebuild all this, but it just likes to keep the two separated and give you good drainage in your terrarium, so you're not rotting off your roots of your cactuses or whatever other plant in there. So, pop this in here, like this. Now this side is going to be the front of it, so I'll just try and get as little overlap there as possible. Not overly concerned about the back, because no one's going to be looking at the back. I've got a nice little alcove section to what's slowly becoming my plant and animal room. Used to be the front living room. It's full of fish tanks and various potted plants now in there. A nice alcove that this can sit in. I think it'll look great in there. So put that in there. And then we're just going to gently add the second layer. Now, of all the instructions I've read and watched, none of them actually put 2 layers of substrate in. I don't think it's actually bad for the plants. Some of the cactus terrariums I was looking at had much thicker substrate layers. So all I'm doing really is creating a thick one like you need. But I think it's more that they don't do it because it's unnecessary, but yeah, the whole hobby is unnecessary really in the grand scheme of things. I'm just doing it because I want to do it. I'm trying to get this on, shape it so it fits everywhere. Like that. Just a thin layer to hold it down, because we're only going to cover this in soil anyway. I mostly just don't want to mix together the 2 types of rocks. Some might think that's weird. I don't really care on that. What I don't want is to get into adding the soil and be mixing it around and be pulling up horrible white looking rocks that just ruin the aesthetic of it. So that's the reason we do all this, it's for aesthetics. So that is generating a nice bit of coverage. A few of them have gone through, but never mind. I wasn't expecting 100% separation. So just add a touch more on the edges. And there. I'm using some of my contouring, just try and get a bit more up on the 2 hills, if you want to call them that. If anyone's wondering if this is about as exciting as my life gets, the answer is yes. I work in insurance, for Christ's sake. Of course it's as exciting as my life gets. Okay, it's coming along nicely. Imagine that sitting there. That's not going to get too tall. One thing I don't want, which I put on because I think it would look terrible, is if the plant starts sticking out at the top. Now obviously they're going to grow upwards, especially this one, but you know, and I may end up having to trim them or repot them or even just replace them with others. One thing I have learned about these is these things don't last forever. You'll have to redo them, but to be perfectly honest, random leaf. That's my dog, by the way, off to savage the neighbour who's tending to her garden, which is far more impressive and well looked after than my garden. But there you go. quite hiding the netting at the back. I'm not overly concerned about that. Last few scraggly bits of rock. That's about the general shape that I wanted. So now I'm going to cut out another section of this to go on top of that. Then we can start getting soil in, and then we can start getting the plants in. Alright, so quick side note, whilst I was cutting out the second layer of mesh for my new terrarium build, I get a message from someone I contacted, well, a couple of days ago on Facebook about this new fish tank that they were selling. Well, it's not new to me, but not really new to them. It's one of the nice fluval edge ones. I do quite like the design on these. They've had this a while now. You can see on top the grill's a bit rusty. Let's see if I can pull that off, clean it up, and I may even paint this whole top thing. I like the design of them, but I don't think the colouring on this really goes well with the rest of the room. So as you can see, it comes with the filter and the pump, and the lights are all built in as well. So they also threw in a black moor fish with it. Apparently they bought him barely a week ago, and he was getting bullied, and the other fish in the tank were nipping at his fins, so they had to move him on his own. And they were selling this tank anyway, so they included him with him. As you can probably tell, Muffin, my black pug, is very interested in seeing him. Anything new, she wants to say hello, don't you, Muffin? But yeah, obviously he's not going to stay in there. It's just a bare tank. It needs a fair bit of work, because this tank needs a good clean to get it working. But I've wanted one of these for a while, but I just think they're a bit expensive for the size that they are. This one was all of £20 to buy. So yeah, pretty impressed. So I'll start getting a new fish nice and acclimatised, and eventually I'll move him to my larger tank that's already got 2 black moors in there. There's a couple of fancy goldfish as well, just small ones, a number of other fish, but they all get on well, none of them are aggressive. So I think he'll have a good home. Oh, there comes Muffin jumping on the table. You're not allowed on the table, Muffin. She really wants to get to this fish, and I'm not going to let her. So yeah, bit of a bumpy ride home, but you're home now, little fella. I'll give you a nice new home, and I've got a new project to work on. They did throw in the ornaments that come with it. You can see this has been in a kid's bedroom. Got a few girly looking ornaments. I can't see me using these, but if it's thrown in with something, I'll rarely ever turn it down. Got some lovely bright pink gravel. Some people like this sort of thing. They like really brightly coloured tanks. I personally don't really like it at all. If I've got the patience, I might take out all these white rocks. I've got some nice larger white pebbles in there that I might use for something. Doubt I'm going to use it. Plastic plant there as well. Mostly green and purple. It's probably the least garish bit about this. And of course some spare filter sponges. It's a bit beaten up. Might be good to use. But yeah, main reason why it's for the tank. Muffin obviously wants to say hello to the fish. I'm never going to let her, because she'll just... Well, you'll eat it, won't you? Eh? Fat lump. Eh? Yeah, not so. Get down off the table. Go on, down. So yeah, little side note, whilst I was building my terrarium, they messaged me at 5:30 saying, oh, can you come at 6? And they're about 10 miles away. Isn't buying on Facebook great? Alright, so second netting all nice and cut out. maybe a bit too much at the back, but it's okay. We're going to cover it with soil now anyway on that. But yeah, that is a substrate layer in. So we're now going to build up the soil. I want to get probably about an inch or so of soil along the top, shape it nicely, and then all that'll be left to do is get the plants in, and that'll be it. The first terrarium build done. Alright, so the soil that I'm going to be using today is just your generic garden grade soil. I pulled this out of an old plant pot that I've had in my potting shed for a while. There was nothing growing in it, it was just sitting there waiting to be used for something, so I pulled it out, mainly because, as you can see, it's nice and dry and crumbly, should make it easy to work with. Also, we don't want it to be too moist because, well, cactus grows in a dry environment, so if it was too all wet and damp, that's not going to be very good for the plant. Now, some might say I should use something more specialist for this. If I'm honest, one thing you'll learn about me is I like to do things on a budget, and I like to make, do and mend. I'll never throw anything away if I think it might be useful later. And I have about a dozen different cactuses now growing in this sort of stuff, and they're quite happy and they're quite long lived as well. And they're very healthy plants, so that should be fine. I've just, rather than bringing the whole pot, it's a big pot, and I've got another big sack of soil out there as well. I've just put it in a plastic box that I have lying about the garden. Because as you can see, I am doing this work on the kitchen table. Hopefully the girlfriend isn't going to wake up anytime soon from her night shift and see this, because I don't think she'll be too happy when she tries to have dinner and it's full of cactuses and soil. So yeah, we're going to get this all spread out in here, get it all nicely shaped, and then we can start putting in our cactuses and our plants. Lovely. Alright, here we go. Trying a slightly different angle on the camera, trying to show you what it is that I'm doing right now. But essentially, we're just going to get handfuls and start laying the soil in there. The first few handfuls, from what I could see online, just have to be a little careful, make sure your mesh doesn't move. Then once you've got a bit of weight holding it in place, it should be fine. So I'll put this on, I'm just going to try and spread it out evenly across the different contours. You can see there's a few bits of what used to be in here. I think it was some coriander that just didn't take. Pick that out. So there's a few bits of dead leaves and such like in. If I'm honest, if they stay in the soil, fine. If they end up on the surface, well, it's going to be a desert scene anyway, so a few bits of dead leaves, a few twigs maybe, probably not going to be that bad. Only add to how it will look. So I'm just going to get all this in here. Trying to create a nice even layer. Build up the two little hills that I made. See a few more bits of leaves and such like that. As I've said already, once this layer is done, we can start adding the plants. Now you may have noticed already that I haven't been wearing gloves to handle the cactuses because I haven't really been touching them. I mean, if you want to handle them without gloves, that's fine. If you can do it. Personally, I find that they can give you a really nasty stab. Those spikes are sharp on it. So when I come to actually handle them properly, not just in the pots, you'll notice I'll be wearing 2 pairs of gardening gloves. And in all likelihood they'll probably still manage to stab me, but I hope at least, that the results of this will be worth it. That's looking pretty good. What are we doing on the thickness? Alright, I'm just going to get a bit more around the front here. So where the plants that I've picked out for this front part, these ones, are not cactus. So I'm actually creating something rather unique here. I'm going to want the back to drain well, so it stays nice and dry for these fellas, but I want the front to be nice and moist. Yes, I did just say moist on the internet. So, I'll see how watering it goes over the months. I'll likely do an update in a month or two. See how this is going once it's all planted. Just pat it down, smooth it out. If you can hear my dogs, I think they're growling at the neighbour. She's still in her front garden. See, the plants that are going in it already come with soil. I'll try and break it off, and I'll use this as much as I can as well. Try and get them nice and planted in. So yeah, that's not half bad. Let's see if I can show you a little bit better and clip you from the tripod. So that's what it looks like. Now, as you can see, I've got the two slopes, and I've one here, the other one, this little fella here, will go here. I'll try and get him upright as possible, and then this big fella back here is going to go in that back corner. I'm quite happy to angle him. I think that'll look quite good at a nice angle. And then these small ones are going to be dotted around the front for now. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it for the soil. Next stage, it's time to get potting. I need to go and get my gardening gloves first, and I think another cup of tea is in order. Alright, so I'm still trying to find a better camera angle to show you the potting. I've been trying to show you this from all angles that I can. I thought I'd start just by showing you quickly what gardening gloves I'm going to use. Now, my first port of call was my heavy duty suede gardening gloves. Unfortunately, I used them pretty much all day every day during the first coronavirus lockdown for about a full 3 months, and they are worn out and knackered, and you may as well not wear them when you're handling something like this. They're still good for light gardening work, but the spikes go straight through them. I've worn the fabric completely thin. I think it's going to be time for a new set once payday comes around. So what I've got left, I've got my light ones. Not even going to consider using these. As you can see, they're brand new. They came free with my heavier duty ones. They actually barely fit on my hands. They're okay, I suppose, for potting, but as you can see, I've never worn them. On that, I don't find your light duty gloves that useful. I figure if you need gloves, you need heavy duty ones. Otherwise, you can get by perfectly fine using your hands. I've got my thick rubberized chemical gloves. These are handy if you're handling things like fertilizer or weed killer, or something that's harmful to your skin, or if you're working with something that's very, very damp and muddy, and is likely to stain you. Just trying to keep your hands a bit clean. They're quite good. Only thing is they, as you can see, they're a bit bigger, a bit thicker, and you do lose some dexterity using them. And I've always found potting plants, especially small ones, require some delicate work. So we're going to try the medium ones. They've got rubberized grips on them. Otherwise, the fabric is quite thin. I'm hoping this rubber works, and I don't end up with sore hands at the end of it after potting these. My main concern is this plant here. This one, the spikes aren't sharp at all. You can just touch them, as you can see. You know, if you touch it a bit too hard, it probably will prick you, but you can gently touch it and it's quite safe. This, however, you'll have to touch it very lightly and it will break the skin, as it just did there. So, we're going to start with these. If they don't work, I'll have to use that, but hopefully it's only going to be the one plant that I have to use them for. Alright, let's get going. One thing I have just realised, I'm really hoping you're enjoying all the different angles I'm giving you on this build. I feel like I've spent probably half of my day today moving tripods, adjusting different angles, changing cameras. I have 3 cameras that I'm using for this. I have my camcorder, which I've had about 10 years now. It has no zoom function, and it's quite odd. It was expensive when I bought it, but nowadays I think you can pick them up for about £20 from CEX. But it does record in full HD, and the image stabilisation works quite well still, so it's handy for the odd job here and there. Plus it has a good memory on it. Now these gloves, I don't know if you can see, if I rest the plant on my palm, they do protect me from the spikes, but the slightest bit of movement does get through, so I'll try not to handle this as much. Now this came in quite a deep pot, it's actually deeper than the soil that I've put in. So what I'm trying to do, without breaking the roots off too much, or if I break a few off I'll probably survive, is just bring that soil down, and I'm going to try and plant it where I want it. Now one thing that may happen as you do this is you get bits of soil stuck to the cactus. If it was a big bit, you could probably just gently pull it off. If not, it's not the end of the world. It'll dry out and then you can just get a straw and blow it off. I'd stay away from compressed air, partly because it's pointless and partly because it's probably a bit too powerful. Just get a regular old plastic drinking straw, or paper if it's McDonald's I suppose. I just blow it off once it's all dried and it'll come away nice and clean. So, got most of that off. All I'm doing here really is just gently rubbing it, trying to get the soil to come away. I was telling you about my cameras, so I have the camcorder. I have the one that I'm talking to you on now, which is my good camera. I mostly use that for photography. It's got a good zoom lens on it. It also has a video function, and it mounts much more easily on my tripod. And because of the decent lens on it, I can get much better angles than the camcorder. I can move it in much closer without losing focus. I can give you more detail, but also giving you a wider view at the same time. It's just generally better for this sort of filming. And the time lapse, which I have running at the same time at a slightly different angle over there, is running on my phone. If anyone's looking for a new phone, I highly recommend the Google Pixel 5. By far the best phone I've ever had. Far cheaper than your iPhone. A cracking camera on it as well. I've taken some really good pictures with it that are as good, if not better, than what I can do with my photography camera. Okay. Let's come down and see, I've got the roots, they're intact. May have broken a few, but it's not going to be the end of the world. The cactus is quite a hardy plant, really. As you see, and what I'm doing is I'm just letting this soil fall down into here. There's no point in wasting it, I'll just spread it out into it like that. It's got a bit of moisture to it because it's been sitting in the tray with the water for a few days. So it'll be a bit less of a shock to the plant as well, if it's possible to shock a cactus. Alright, so that's as far as it's going to go. So I'm just going to try and make a slight indentation in here. Let's pull some of the soil off the mound that I've made. And we're just going to gently position it where we want it. A bit like that maybe. Yeah, I think the larger of these baubles or bulbs, whatever you want to call them, to the back. Gives them more space further in. And I'm just going to pack the soil back in around it like that. Try not to block the camera angle, but unfortunately I do need to get all around it. I'll be sure to give you a good close-up beforehand. So it's sitting proud ever so slightly. I'm not going to worry too much about that. It's not supposed to be an even landscape at all. Looking closely, I may have flattened a few of the spikes off whilst I was handling the plant. That'll be fine. Spikes are meant to be a defensive mechanism for these plants anyway. I can't imagine when they do their job breaking them off harms the plant in any way. Otherwise they're not really protecting it, are they? They'll protect it once and then the plant will die anyway. So yeah, it's sitting proud ever so slightly, but that's fine really. That's in. It's not looking too bad. If anything, it's sitting slightly up from the surface, actually enhances that side. It's a little bigger than I thought it was going to be, but no, happy with that. First ever plant in my first ever terrarium, made from an old fish tank. It's not bad. So, if you're going to do this yourself, it's inevitable that you're going to get dirt everywhere. Don't worry about it too much. After you get dirt on the cactus, like you can see here, it'll dry out, and then you can just blow it off with a straw later. Okay, right, let's do the next one. Now, this one, as I said, the spikes aren't sharp. If you look very closely, I think I've got the angle right there. There are a few, they look almost like hairs, but they're actually rigid and they will stick you. It may not look like much, but if they get under your skin, it's going to be quite painful for quite a long time. So I'm going to keep the gloves on as I handle this. But yeah, this one should be a little easier to pot. So all I do to remove my plants is tip them up. I don't have to grip it. I'm just holding it like that, and then you just slide the pot away. That's all there is to it. Sometimes different plants, especially if the soil's a lot wetter, you may have to press the base in, or if it's got holes in, just poke something through just to give it a little nudge out. But once you move it the first centimetre or so, it's almost like you break the seal and it'll just pop out. So I think that way around, again a taller bit to the back, and sort of sweeping upwards with this. So, just going to do the same as I did last time, just rub the soil away, try and break it off, try not to break the roots. Letting the soil that's in there fall into it. It's not want that. Alright, so we're back on. Those cheapest chips batteries that I was telling you about died completely in my camera in under 10 minutes. So that's a bit disappointing. Got a 10 pack, there's 6 of them left. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, they don't seem very good for anything. Maybe they'll be okay for my photography. Seems that when it's recording video it just kills them and it keels over in just a few minutes. But turn it off for 5 minutes, turn it back on, it says it's got full battery. I think maybe they're just not good for demanding tasks like recording video, but taking the odd picture here and there, they might be okay. Failing that, I'll just slowly use them in the TV remote if that's all they're good for. Fresh cup of Yorkshire tea though. See, every time there's an interruption I get an excuse to make a cup of tea, so I can't complain that much really. So we're now recording on my camcorder, the old one. The quality may be a bit lowered. It's what we've got. I want to carry on with this. I want to get this done. We've only got these last few to pot. I'll start with this big one, which I think I'm going to put in the middle at the back there for it. So as always, just tip it up, not gripping the plant. This one I'm just having to press the bottom because the soil's a bit damper. Alright, there we go, pop it out. So I'm just going to gently break away the soil, just using the fingertips. This is a bit looser packed, so it's just falling away nicely. It's very damp is this soil. This plant, when I brought it home, this was one of the 50p ones, and this was all brown and dying, and within 5-6 hours of me bringing it home, putting it in some water, it turned green again. The tips of the leaves have got a nice purpley colour to them. They've got a slight spike on them each one as well. I wouldn't call this a cactus, but it has cactus qualities. That one's especially sharp. But yeah, some of these plants I find can go one of two ways. They either die no matter what, or they are remarkably resilient. They can look almost beyond repair. You give them a bit of sunlight, a bit of water, they'll recover very quickly indeed, as this one did. See, for all the soil that was in that pot, I'm actually finding very little in the way of roots, which is good because it means I don't need to dig such a deep hole for it. So let's put that pile away. Soil that I've broken off, I'm just going to move into roughly where I'm going to plant it. Again, just trying to avoid such a shock for the plant. They've been sitting in the soil they came from the shop with, which is in something of an unknown quantity. Whereas this garden soil that I have here is nice. It's a combination of shop-bought compost and the nice fertile fenland soil that we have out here in rural Cambridgeshire. How's that looking? Too bad actually. There's a couple of other little sprouts from it. Little one there, big one there. There's one or two round the back here as well. Thought I'd put the bigger one to the front. It's going to get them more light. Yeah. Love it when things go in perfectly first time. Bit of dirt on that plant. See, if you're able to lift it off, if it's a clump, it's not too bad. But here it's got into all the spikes, so that'll just need blowing off a bit later. I will show you how to do that. I'll find a straw, got one in the house somewhere. So now I'm thinking that one, maybe. I want to get this one in. This one was the most remarkable recovery. As you can see, there's a few brown leaves on it still, but this one was shriveled up. It was tiny. I thought, oh, that's probably going to die. This one was actually one whole penny. Oh, screw it for a penny, try it. Brought it home, it opened back out like it was a flower. The leaves are still a bit curled on the ends, but I think that's maybe just the shape of the plant now. Been a bit traumatic, being basically turned into some sort of plant jerky it was. But yeah, within a few hours it had opened out and now it's lovely again. So we'll have this one. This is probably one of the more remarkable recoveries from my little plant rescue mission. Let's just put all this in. So again, this soil in here, just going to drop it in. It's quite clumpy and moist, so I made sure that, well, I did water the cactuses because they'd been starved of water for a long time as well. Even they were starting to show signs of it. They've recovered quite well too. I showed you the one that's had a growth spurt with the flower earlier, but these do need water, so I made sure these were well watered. So I'll just pull that way, drop it in there. So I'm going to put this one, I think, there. Just dig a small hole for it. That. Just plop it in there. It's touching the glass slightly, but I don't think that looks too bad. Slightly. That looks, took that leaf under there. That's not too bad, really. Not overly keen on it touching the glass. I may need to come back out and go somewhere else, I think. Yeah. So to take it out, I'm just going to dig my fingers in either side, trying not to touch the plant, and just lift it back out. It's only been in a few seconds, so it's not going to be established in any way, you're not hurting it. Put that, fill that hole back in, and then we'll put it over here instead. So, dig another small hole, plop it in there. Yeah, that's not too bad really. And as it grows, of course, it's probably going to end up touching the glass as well. Maybe I'll have to prune it, but yeah, that's not too bad actually. I think this little baby's going to fit. I mean, I could put it in, but it'd be just the one on its own. I think it'd look too crowded. We're going to go with these. This one's lost a few leaves down one edge from its starvation of water in the shop. That's fine, we'll just put the bald side to the back. If anything, it'll make it easier to fit in with everything else. I'll have almost like a cutout. And I think we'll get this one in as well if there's space. So let's just break the soil off this one. Small ones can go down the front. There for it. Like I said, put the broken bit to the back. I'll just push it into there like that. How's that? That's not too bad either. Just took some soil underneath it to prop it up. That's quite alright. I think, looking at it, adding another will probably make it look a bit crowded on the plant front. So I think we're going to call that it for plants. That's some good progress made there, really. To say this was the delicate side of the operation, that's not gone too badly. And it hasn't taken too long. I'll return the ones that I'm not using to this tray. Still a little bit of water in it. Put plants in it. Cactuses have got more than enough. not been able to find out throughout my cactus collecting is whether it's cactuses or cacti. I seem to use both interchangeably. I'm sure anyone who watches this will have their own opinion in the comments. There we go. Yeah, I think that's some good progress. So now I'm off to go and find the sand that we need to cover this with. So it is going to be a desert scene, and whilst it's still light outside, so it is getting late, I'll see if I can find some twigs and dead leaves to try and litter around the place. It's summer at the moment, but it's been raining a few days, so I don't think I'm going to find any dried twigs that to give it the real desert scene. I might have to wait for that, but I've got some spare gravel, I've got some sand, we'll make a nice desert scene out of this. Okay. Alright, so at this point, the last 10-20 minutes worth of video I haven't been able to include. I don't know what's happened to it. The file is playable on its own, but for whatever reason Lightworks just will not handle it. I believe, playing it back slowly, that there is an amount of corruption towards the end of the file. Something happens to the video, and for whatever reason Lightworks just can't get past that. If I play it in the editor, it plays fine up to a point and then it just crashes. The same when I'm trying to export it, it will get to about 90% and then it just stops, and there's no saving it from there. I even struggle to exit the program. A lot of the time I have to Control-Alt-Delete and just kill Lightworks off from there. So there wasn't much left to do, as you're probably already watching in this time-lapse. I finished getting the plants in, and then the main thing left to do was to put the sand on over the top, which I do. I also put a few pebbles and a few little bits of twigs and such like in there to finish off the desert look, and then I use a straw to blow the sand off the top of the plants. Finished product I was pretty proud of. Granted, there are some pros out there that will probably be quite angry with themselves, but I liked it. I think it turned out quite well, and it's actually been a while now since I recorded this, and the terrarium is flourishing. The plants have all grown somewhat at different rates for each one, but it looks quite nice on that. So I'll leave the video here. Thank you for watching. I am at some point going to do an update on the terrarium just to show you how it got on after finishing it off after the end of this video, but for now we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching.